Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live right here in the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have literally been a part of our journey since day one. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, Dr. Snick, aka the Sonic Surgeon, for his sponsorship of his time and his voice and his music for our intro and outro. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which, hey, it is a time of year, people. Go check him out. He can be found anywhere that good music is available. Also, big thank you for all of our artwork. Anything you see art-related, this is a courtesy of Mr. Steve McGinnis, an amazing artist. So check him out on social media. It's awesome stuff. Tonight, we welcome back for the third time Wes G Roberts. And tonight he's going to be talking about Aleister Crowley and all of his controversies and his knowledge, and just fascinating. I think often misunderstood, but fascinating nonetheless. So in order to participate in tonight's show, guys, let's start with the YouTube, which is, of course, the Outer Realm, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, UFO Paranormal Radio. And then we're going to head over to Facebook, News on the Flip Side, UFO Paranormal Radio and United Public Radio, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, Canada's Most Haunted, and, of course, the Outer Realms, And I see people chiming in. Tamara, Wayne, Mike, Sakman. Hello. So, wow. Hello. We sound like that Paris House of Frankenstein, the Australian house emu.
Yes.
I know. I'm all right.
I love them.
That's the kind of
no. There's a little puppy crying here. Puppy. He's 14 years old.
Okay.
How's that, buddy?
Yes, Sakman. It is most definitely going to be an interesting discussion. And we'll see how much, Wes actually wants to talk about, but he's knowledgeable for a reason. And I guess, it's not my place to say, so we're going to leave it right there.
Hi,
the link
Philip.
has been set. Oh, hello, Philip.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Snick and say happy birthday, Dr. Snick.
Yes.
I saw him on Instagram and I'm like, wow. So it's a really good time to check out his music, guys.
I know.
A lot of stuff posted. He is awesome.
I love it.
Philip Adrian Booth, what is going on with you? You're always working.
I know, you're here.
Hello.
How come you're not working?
He's always working. Well, it's late now.
Yeah. It's only 9:00 Eastern here.
But same for him.
Yeah, so they go early on a Wednesday. So we're just waiting for Wes to pop in. And Aleister Crowley. A lot of people really dig Aleister Crowley. Like I said, I personally think he's pretty misunderstood. But to be titled the most evil man in the world has to be.
Do you really think he's the most evil man in the world? I would pick a serial killer over him.
I know.
I think it's a bit much. I think they need to. I think you should got to be careful with your words too. Thank you, Zach. We had a great Thanksgiving weekend. It was beautiful.
It was nice. Busy.
Yeah, I was congested AF the whole time, but I missed a beautiful wedding on Sunday because I was so sick. Yeah, I really, my girls. But anyways, I think it's terrible to say that without merit. I think Hollywood's really amped up who he was, and I mean, there's a little strange,
I know.
But to say he was the most, they really said that about him.
Yeah, they did. And it's funny because a friend of mine is friends with a direct descendant of Aleister Crowley, very gifted herself in occult knowledge and just her abilities, just really, really, and quiet and shy. And so it just
and
is
that's
kind of
what
really,
I find. Most of them are introverted.
Mhm.
Do you think
Right.
that maybe it's a label that came with the times?
I think so. He wasn't well accepted in his own time. In fact, he didn't become really notorious until he died.
Yeah. I
So that's
love the Stockman's comment.
go ahead.
Between Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler and Aleister Crowley. Crowley's at the bottom of my list for most evil men. You can put people ahead of him in this list too, like Jeff Dahmer and Ted Bundy and Richard Manson. I would think he had quite the evil in him. When you can delegate murders and keep your hands clean, that's pretty evil, in my opinion. But we'll learn more about him as soon as Wes gets here.
We're going to do it right now. Bam, there he is.
Hi, Wes. How are you?
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Tell us he wasn't the most evil man in the world.
I was saying he was misunderstood.
That's just so wrong on so many levels when you have all those serial killers out there and you put him in that pile. It's just so wrong.
I'm like, you're just misunderstood.
I'm not hearing you quite well, so I'm going to try and shift to this.
Okay.
So just give me a moment. I'll go to my settings and try and get on this.
Absolutely.
StreamYard has a habit of doing that. You're all set up and then you go into StreamYard and all of a sudden you have no sound.
Every time.
Yeah, it never fails. I have to do it I have to come on earlier than normal because I have to go through all my settings again, even though I did them during the day.
I will try until I actually hear you.
Oh, you can hear us.
No problem.
I hear you through my speakers, but not through my headset. Oh.
Did you get it?
Got it.
Yeah, it's
just go into your settings. Sometimes you have to redo it there. It's just crazy.
StreamYard's so much fun.
I know, it's just fun.
Yes.
I teach this stuff and I have so many problems with tech. I've taught it for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And my problems are always big and bold, never boring.
Right?
Nice and annoying. Big, bold in your face. Yeah. You can't figure this out. I love it.
Hi, Samantha. My energy tends to destroy technology.
Mine does I go through sometimes.
I go through. See, I can't even get too close to the mic. I go through. Ask Michelle, toaster, ovens, stupid things. Anything that that's
I get a message. I lost another toaster oven. It's like, oh, that was a crazy one.
She's like, wait a second. Have you even had that one 6 months? I'm like, no. And they're pricey. It's like, stop already. But it's small things. Cell phones, remote controls. I've broken those just by being next to them.
I hear you entirely, Amelia. I have my days when I might as well not touch anything because I can get to an inch away from my phone and I don't even have to tap it.
Right.
Just sort of boom. And it's like,
teach me how to do that. Can I do that to people?
Sure.
Sure we can. It's a karma thing, though. We got to watch. Sometimes that mindset gets ahead, and you're like, "Oops!"
I know.
Should not have done that one.
But I'm allowed to reverse, right? Yeah, that's okay, right? It's not a karmic prize.
No.
I wouldn't do anything to my advantage. I just like to send it back.
I've been doing it for years. I'm fine.
Well, me too. Fair. I've learned to accept the fact that anything you send out there is not going to go out or come back in exactly the way you envisioned it.
True.
This is what I have learned.
Right. Yeah. True. Well, tonight though, we're going to be getting really into some good things. People have been asking about Aleister Crowley for quite some time, talking about it on the show. So when you and I chatted after the last show, I thought, oh, this would be good.
Especially spooky month.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say too much because that's your story to tell, and I always say people who are really knowledgeable about something are knowledgeable for a reason, and but that's up to the guest what they want to actually talk about, and how much they want to talk about. So, as always, we're going to just put you on the stage and let you take it any way you want. We'll jump in, and if you figure out the screen sharing, if you want to do that, you can do that, and it's all good.
I can't wait.
There you go.
So if you see me doing this, I have multiple monitors. I'm not being rude, honest.
Okay. You're not. You can't be rude. You're Canadian.
This is true. Exactly.
We travel. People love us.
It's true. Yeah, it's
we
true.
got to hang out more often. This is what I can say.
I know. I agree. All right. So I'm also messing with stuff here. So
Steve White, Aleister Crowley's house looks amazing right now.
The Boleskine house, yeah, it does. They got a new roof on it. They're excavating and doing all kinds.
Which
one? The one that's in Inverness.
I was going to say which one because
Loch Ness.
Oh, right. Isle of Skye. Wow.
I know, it's beautiful.
I
love it.
It's
I love
gorgeous.
the Isle of Skye. It's beautiful.
You could just pitch a tent there and live. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just
always
so
windy up there.
Hi, Jamie.
I go looking on my hairstyle. Flat straight. It's always windy up there.
That's why everybody braids their hair there. Now you know.
Not me.
Yeah, they all braid their hair because they know they're going to go out there and it's like, no.
I know. My son's just looking at me going, I'm like, I know. Don't be embarrassed. I know. You'll get over it. I promise.
And you don't wear hats, do you, Michelle?
No, I don't wear hats.
Oh,
It'd be gone.
I'm styling. I'm ready for Isle of Skye. I wear hats. I braid my hair. Come on.
Little wins. Big wins. Okay. If you weren't holding on to something, you'd be off the coast.
I was just going to say the fear would be me flying off.
It would
be it. But
anyway.
You don't want too big of a hat. You could have that umbrella effect.
Don't laugh. It happened in Niagara Falls. A young lady was visiting from China. She put up a parasol on a windy day.
Over the falls,
and that was the end. Yeah.
You don't remember that? It was in the news.
Umbrella.
Yeah, she didn't. Well, I think at that point she was just about this big, little thin thing, and she was taken immediately, and that was it.
That's why we don't let my daughter close to the edge.
No,
she's blown in my breezeway at my house. I've had to grab her.
Yeah,
she's 25.
It's really bad.
Grabbed her.
Really bad. So let's get the show on the road. Where do you want to start, Wes?
Well, so I have a list of items, then tons of detail. When you're talking about Crowley, there's no shortage of detail. Just we could spend show after show after show. So what I've done is put together a bunch of facts and some stuff that he's done that I think have contributed to our world, our magical world. And so 5 or so major statements of his that have certainly impacted me, and they've impacted a lot of people from Wicca to the Church of Satan to beyond. So he has affected so many people in so many different ways. And there were influences at the time he was born and around the time he was growing up in his formative years. And that if I get a chance, I'll talk about the influences. One of them was spiritualism.
Yeah.
The growth of spiritualism was in his heyday as well. And it took off in the United States and went to Britain, and on it went. And this is something that interests me to no end, spiritualism.
Right.
So his key movements, his magical and societal influences, some key dates. I don't want this to be like, a blow by blow, because you could go every year from his year of birth to when he died.
Right.
You could go from 1875 to when he died, which was 1947. And
that's a long time.
Actually, today is his birthday.
Ooh,
talk about Kismet.
Right.
I know. Isn't that weird? Today is his birthday.
Is that why you took the date?
No, we didn't even think about it
at
the time. No.
Oh,
wow. That's fantastic.
We really do need to hang out.
Yeah. So October 12, 1875. And
His birthday
in England. And so he died in Hastings.
Please don't come forward. I can't do that right now. Because I'm like...
Okay, so if Harry Houdini won't come forward, I don't know that Crowley will.
Harry Houdini,
Really?
the wannabe debunker of everything.
No, I know. I'm not. This is not glowing admiration, but every Halloween they try and bring him back. Somebody does somewhere.
You know what? I really believe that Houdini's just lived and lived and lived.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't believe that's a soul that would just stay on the other side. I believe that that inquisitive mind would come back because he's still learning. So if you believe in reincarnation, I would say that he is a perfect candidate for it.
Now he's got a point to make.
He does have a point to make, and it killed him.
I would totally agree with you. Folks like him, and maybe the three of us, and maybe a million others watching, have stuff that they're going to continue to work on in the afterlife when they cross the Rainbow Bridge. Their influence is going to be felt. Sometimes it's in us. If we had a close friend, which I had a close friend who was a magician, treated me like a brother. He said, you know, when I go, I want to make sure some of what I am is in you.
Right.
Exact. Disco will come back before Harry Houdini does.
Well,
not in my lifetime for either of those two. Thank you. But
I was at a seance years ago for Houdini. It never happened, but
nothing at all. Do you think that maybe, Wes, it's just the people at the table? Maybe he's a little particular about who he wants to speak to, or maybe he's just moved on.
Yeah.
I'm wondering because Amelia, he's such a big debunker, right? As we all know, he got that way, as most of us know, I think, because of the death of his mom, and he was unable to raise his mom, and so he went on a trail. And he was taking down people left, right, and center.
Right in Lilydale, upstate New York, not all that far away. He frequented it there, trying to debunk them.
Yeah, the funny thing is, because he was a stage magician, he was able to replicate stuff that went on in seances. But that's no surprise.
I know.
No.
That's true.
No.
That's true. Yeah.
Magic just means reveal.
Good argument. You did have a good argument for it.
It didn't mean that those things were not real. It meant that he could replicate them. That is all.
That's all.
That's a good statement. That's a solid statement. An observation. It's true. It just means he could replicate it. It didn't debunk anything. I hate that word too, by the way.
I take it personal sometimes because, I'm the object of it sometimes. So.
Sure.
No, I know.
Of course, but that's the field on average, So back to Aleister. Okay. Where do you want to take it?
The Aleister.
Wherever you want to take it. We'll start.
Okay, so I'm going to jump around a bit, and I'd love for you to jump in whenever you need to or want to.
Thank you.
Yes.
So he was an occultist, a writer, a poet, a professional chess player, a mountaineer. This is all history. And he was a magus. He brought forth a word, which was the lema, or will. And so only a magus, a person becoming a fifth degree, can bring forth a new word to the world and perhaps change the world by doing it. Because once they release it, it's out there and it's in other people's hands.
Right.
So what they do with the magical word, the magus or maga always hopes that they'll adopt it, use it, and give feedback to them so they can say, oh, because I'm so confined in this world I created, I didn't know you could do this. So this is what Crowley gifted to the world in 1904, this magical word. So a whole bunch of stuff about him. His original name was Edward. His dad's name, he didn't like it, so he changed it to Aleister at a certain point. When he went to Cambridge, mostly he adopted at Cambridge University. So people tend to think, well, he was just an occultist, just a mystic.
Well, he was a very educated man, wasn't he?
Huge.
Yeah.
Whatever he applied himself to, I think.
Yes.
He would have to be that inquisitive and dig that deep.
And my gosh, the folks he hung out with, this is what got him branded as the wickedest man in the world. That was the press. He didn't call himself that.
Right, of course.
Yeah, so the folks he hung with, all sorts of folks, and his counterculture that he really started long before the 1960s, drug taking, bisexualism, you name it. S&M, just you name it. Drug taking, he was into all of it. He did all of it, and he used it in conjunction with his magic. I'd say it's a bad idea because I think magic can open up gateways and doors without drugs, whatever. That's just me.
No, it's true. We talked about that on the last show, I think, a little bit.
I think it's kind of dangerous.
Right.
But up to you and how you feel about that. So he was heavily influenced as the years went by. There's Arthur Edward Waite, who created a tarot deck or a tarot deck that most of us know. It's the Rider deck.
Right.
And so I don't know how well this will show.
We can see it.
My first tarot deck.
It's upside down, though.
I was going to say.
There we go. Better. Yeah. There we go. The Rider.
So that's the Waite deck.
Okay.
Maybe one of the most popular decks in the world, actually. And it was my first deck when I was really young. And I thought, wow, this is really something. So Waite was a writer, and he was a lot of other things. And he also did this tarot deck. And Crowley thought that was pretty interesting.
Right.
And so it affected Crowley to the extent that he joined the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, in 1898. He was influenced by Waite. He was influenced by Mathers, MacGregor Mathers. He was influenced by Alan Bennett. So he had all these influences. And around this time, there was so much happening in the world. So I'm not sure if this was him striking out based on what he was reading, what he heard about, or something else.
So was he in England during this specific time? Because, spiritualism was huge there and became, I think it was just in its infancy here in the West,
It was in the late 1800s, came to America, basically, or North America, with the Fox sisters.
That's right.
Then I think Crowley was still in England at this time. And so it was a very magical melting pot, right?
Oh, yeah.
It still is.
It still is. It just had everything. And so he experimented with stuff that some of us hear about, and maybe some of your listeners, watchers, viewers would not know about, like the John Dee's work.
Right. Okay.
So John Dee,
on that? Yeah.
Yeah, mad lab person, had a scry, kind of a mirror device. Came up with scrying mirrors. I've never scryed. I do use mirror magic.
Right.
Yeah, scrying freaks me out.
What happens?
I don't know. I really believe it's a past life thing. Michelle's got a huge black mirror, and I'm constantly shielding it.
I know it's true. She doesn't like it. She just comes over and
I'm just like, I can't. I just can't with this mirror. Can you move it? But I love it. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very
But can you
heavy.
move the
Yeah,
mirror?
it's
No. I'm like, it's just covered.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's a personal preference thing.
No, it's beautiful. I
But
find
people
it
could do it
beautiful.
with crystal balls as well, right? It's just
I know,
reflection.
and I got one right behind me, but it's not that. It feels like it's going to pull me in and keep me. That's how I feel when I look at a black mirror.
did you have it made for you, Michelle?
No, actually, I always say things find me. I have over, and not OCD or anything, but I have probably about 150 mirrors. I love
my
mirrors.
gosh.
Not all up in her house.
No, our grand staircase is full of just really ornate mirrors. The one at the top just happens to be a black one. How did I luck out on it? I don't know. I had a friend say,
gorgeous.
"Hey, are you
It's
interested in this?" I went, "Yes."
Yeah. It's stunning.
Of course.
Well, all your mirrors are beautiful. That one is just exceptional. As I said, I feel that like that Hoover feeling, that suction of any black mirrors. It just, I don't know. Maybe one day it'll come to me, or maybe in a past life regression or something. I really think that it was something, in my life that happened at one time.
When I work with people in magic, when I mentor people, some of what I do involves mirror work.
Yeah.
And it's divided into two parts. One is looking into a physical mirror. And basically, your image is going to change. It is seriously going to change. Yeah, right, Michelle? It changes.
Especially in a black mirror.
Yeah, it changes. And I think we're not making some of this up, quite honestly.
No,
I think we're seeing some of who and what we are.
There's in the Italian culture about not having mirrors at certain levels and certain locations, not just feng shui, but also the Italian culture. Like I love mirrors. I have a huge one over my fireplace, but I can't look into it. It's up high and it's facing a wall. I can't look into it. I don't stay, contrary to popular belief in my house, I do not sit with my face in the mirror for a long time.
No.
So I don't know. Like I said, I think it's just something. I love them. I think they're stunning, and Michelle owns some of the most beautiful mirrors I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm funny like
you
that.
you can take this to the next level. A mirror is a prop, just like one of the rings I'm wearing and some of the other jewelry I wear and some of the symbols I look at. They're a step closer to something, but they're not the something. So they're symbolic of the something in the causal world, right?
Yeah.
So there's also human mirror magic you can do, which is taking it a step further, which is finding somebody you trust that will show you either what you're missing or what you could become.
Right. See, Bubbles, you have to come over and I'll bring the mirror down. I'm going to make you look in it.
Yeah.
If you start to go in, I'll pull you back out.
Thanks. I trust her with my life. But seriously, I can't even swim in water that I can't see the bottom of. Those reflective surfaces, they all freak me out. But
that's really interesting. All the more reason, which I would say to you, please do more mirror work.
Yeah, conquer it.
Like spiders.
You'll find something there. That's all.
Yeah.
I know. That's crazy.
Maybe.
Okay, so we'll continue on from that point then. Okay.
And I'm going to try and get a photo of him up. I'm just doing present share screen.
Was he a stylish man?
At times, very that stylish.
Era, right? That whole era.
Yeah. He there we go. Let me just see if you can see a picture of Aleister Crowley. I'm doing this.
Yeah, we can see it. Here, let me bring him up. Boom, there we are.
So that's him in one of his magical poses. I think it's Horus. I could not find the reference to it, but you'll see this photo all over the place.
That's what it looks like. Yeah,
popular one. Yeah.
I think it's Horus. So if I've got the pictures up, can I run through some of them?
You can do anything you like.
Show.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Probably my first Crowley book.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Confessions. Ooh.
Yeah, it's it'll say on the cover how hilarious and bizarre it is, and it's true. Crowley used to exaggerate things, make things up. Other people would write about him, like Kenneth Grant, and say, no, he didn't do that. So it's always in a mystery, right? So this book fell apart into two parts. The back cover fell off. The front cover is still somewhat
so it's well loved.
It's well loved. It's where I learned, I think, at first about Crowley.
Right.
This I've got with me, and I'm going to pull out one of the cards from his deck.
Okay. Wow.
You can see how old this is, right?
When was that created? When was it published?
40s, I'm going to say.
Wow.
Right. And this deck,
during the whole spiritualism.
When you look at this order, I mean, he had his own order, wasn't it? AA something.
Silver Star. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so these guys just sort of became like his diehard following.
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken, right?
Lady Frida was one of his followers. He collaborated with her near the end of his life. She did the drawings.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be nice.
And very so cool. if you've both seen, or if your viewers have seen the deck up close, it's fabulous.
Wow. No, I haven't.
I haven't seen it at all.
I don't imagine trying to find an original deck too would be really difficult, right? He's pretty anything Crowley is pretty sought after, especially anything.
It's like trying to get stuff for Ingo Swan, if you know that.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, collector's items. So this is the book that goes with it, the companion book, and explains in detail the cards. You get a little booklet with the deck, but this explains in detail. So I used to always have this out with the cards out, and my deal was never to do readings. Actually, I don't. My partner does readings, Anna. She does better readings than I could ever do. But I don't do readings. I study the symbols strictly on every card, all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I got to fall in love with the symbols because there's so many layers. This is his most famous book, Book of the Law, short version.
Wow.
Okay, very skinny little book. Yeah, these are real cool things, eh?
I love the Egyptian symbolism again.
Mm-hmm.
He was heavily influenced by that, and so have I been all my life.
Right. Yeah.
The law is for all. There's Regardi in there. You can see his name.
Right. Very
and
nice.
This famous book.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Master Beast would be
Right.
another name for this, but this is where Crowley will take you through the 1, 2, 3's ABCs of magic.
Right. Wow.
And magic only means to reveal. And it's spelled properly there. Yeah.
You notice how he spells it? I think we all three know this, and many of your viewers might know it. He changed the spelling on purpose, right?
There's different variations of it.
There is.
Yeah. Magic with a J as well in the middle.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess
that reminds me of MJ12 and other stuff that we don't need to get into. But yeah,
right.
So this is
we could always do a part 2. We'll just roll with it. See where it takes us.
So I will unshare, and hopefully we're back.
Yeah, excellent. Very nice. So basically, this was more than just a movement. Like, Aleister Crowley, I mean, the man was feared, but yet people were curious about him. People tried to, I hate to use the word coattail, but that's pretty much what it was. Like, he was just really brilliant in so many ways. Like I truly do say misunderstood. I think he was a sign of the times, and the times weren't ready for him.
The times got ready for him from maybe the 60s forward.
When he wasn't around to enjoy it. Who was the first to do the tarot?
I think it was Waite, but I think it was Waite.
Right.
I may be wrong about that. It could have predated him, but this is the earliest deck I know of. But now there's, I'd conservatively say, a couple hundred decks out there. I have another deck.
Owns at least a couple of hundred decks. They're all different.
I own so many. Have they always come with a companion book? And
generally, they come with a little booklet. I can try and show you Waite's booklet if it's still in here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, who was the first to say, "Hey, we better hand out this booklet so they understand the meaning." Yeah. Okay, that's a very small one. Now they're like super thick.
Yeah, and there's another booklet with the Toth deck, is I think how most people pronounce that. There's another booklet with that, and then there's an entire book with that.
Thank you, Tara. You said it was a French parlor game.
Tarot was initially, yeah.
And so then they got symbol heavy.
Right, right.
Colors, elements, shapes, other symbols, characters. It got symbol heavy. The card I'm going to show you from the Toth deck a little bit later. It's just fantastic, life-changing card, as most of these are. Most people consider this to be just one of the more beautiful decks. Now they are. They've done decks on Giger stuff.
Oh, they've done stuff.
Oh, it's so loud. Oh, sorry.
Oh, me?
Yeah, I don't know. All of a sudden, it just went. Whoop. I was like,
maybe a surge. Is it still loud?
Yeah. Yeah,
well, really I didn't change anything.
I don't know. I'm just saying, just letting you know.
I'm even talking though.
Yeah. That's okay.
Well, it must have moved by itself. Okay. How's that?
Well, we're talking controversial stuff, right?
Yeah, maybe something's going on. What about the symbolism? Let's talk about that. Why so much symbolism in these decks?
He would want to explain, and I think Waite did, and other authors have as well. I have a Black Magic tarot as well, Black Tarot. People want to explain in multiple ways the influences of a specific card.
Right.
And a specific card generally starts with a number, unless it's a court card. The major secrets, right?
Right.
The major arcana. So unless it's a court card, like Queen of Swords or Death, or the Fool, unless it's one of those, people want to start with the number. Then they want to start with one of 4 basic symbols, and then embellish those with colors and scenery and arrangement, like a stage.
Right.
So you might have the 3 of Swords. So you're going to see 3 swords,
of course,
and you're going to see a scene. You might see a young girl, and you might see an older man, and you might see nature. Then there's specific colors to it. Then you might see the Eye of Horus. This kind of thing. So multiple layers of symbols to explain a single concept.
Wow. It is fascinating because somebody had to put all that together. But Crowley, when we go back, if we can go back to influences,
Yeah.
he had, it's believed, an extraterrestrial. He was being, I guess he was an experiencer, right? I guess we could say, because you have UFO background, and
Yeah.
when they show images of this being, it looks like a gray, and he received a lot of information from this being, and a lot of this was back to, I think, his Scotland days, wasn't it? His Loch Ness days.
Boleskine and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
The being was called AWAS.
Right.
And AWAS dictated to him the Book of the Law.
Oh, okay.
And and that was 1904. He was on to this with his so-called Scarlet Woman. I don't know how far down that rabbit hole we want to go tonight.
No, it doesn't matter wherever you want to go. I know the story. It's a good story.
Crowley had lots of Scarlet Women.
Right.
It was not just one. But this particular one, Rose Kelly, helped him develop this connection with AWAS, this entity. And Crowley went into the desert from Cairo and received the Book of the Law. This to me sounds 100% like a download.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does.
No, it's true. It's true. And I know that I've read numerous accounts, while this is stuff he had allegedly said when he lived in Loch Ness, how he felt never alone, not just with this being, but the paranormal activity that happened there. Apparently is one of the reasons that he chose the location, because it was just magical, I guess you could say.
Sure.
So I think I can imagine, like, during that time period, how his creativity, shall we say, would have just peaked, because you have all of these beings, coming forth and speaking to him. So I guess my question is, do you think that, with this type of magic he did, obviously, there'd be a lot of conjuring to a degree. This is, I think, isn't this a way of evolution, I guess, evolving?
It is totally all of that. He created something new for humankind, which was thelemic magic.
Yes.
And this all had to do with, if we're to look back at this, the single word that was will. I've said it before, will with a capital W. And I can certainly talk more about will tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Will is basically going your own way, making decisions for yourself and doing your will, not anyone else's will.
Right.
Pursuing your destiny in your way.
You're in charge, basically.
Yeah, so his famous statement, do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law.
Right.
Do what you will. In other words, carve your own fate and destiny. So it's so embedded in us today, I would say, that we might not know that it had such beginnings.
Well, you're taught to go against that with mainstream religion. People, and again, only because I've got friends in every walk of life. Luciferians, Satanic Church, which essentially is the direct opposite, of Catholicism. But I think, even with the Luciferian mindset, it was just, no, you are your own God. You do for you, which it'd be interesting to see how much of, like, who modeled who on this, because it is very much about not worshiping yourself, but doing for yourself, evolving for yourself. Self-indulgence,
it's all self-evolution. It's about self-evolution, Michelle. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And to evolve the self is a sacred task. Crowley thought it was a combination of the microcosm, you, and the macrocosm. And, the two of you were just discussing, all of us were discussing, essentially what are called sacred spaces.
Right.
Or sacred places.
Yeah.
So, my partner and I, we make sacred places, even if it's just a cafe.
Right.
You just do a sort of sign of the opening and sort of christen that as your sacred space, and the fireworks are going to go off.
Right. No, I like it. I like it. But of course, again, he would have, in this day and age, I think it would have been a lot different experience for him than it was back then. Even like he became very popular after his death, even in the 60s. But that was a whole flower power thing. You know what I mean? Like
It was too.
yeah, yeah. So he may have done, may have been a little more popular then. But I think this would have been his time. I really do, because with the age of the computer and the internet and an age of self-knowledge and being able to self-teach, right? Like, can you imagine what he could have done with technology?
His research, his reach.
Yeah.
An evangelist of a different kind.
Yes. No, exactly. Okay, so where do you want to go from here? I know I should have jumped in and hijacked you there, but
no, are you kidding? This is so organic. That's why I love so much being on the show, even when I get scared being on the show. So
we love having you.
Little less.
Yeah, right. So let me tell you about some of the things that were going on when Crowley was growing up. And if these didn't influence him, I would be surprised. But make your own guesstimates about this. Come to your own conclusions. Eliphas Levi, who translated the Waite Tarot deck, wrote all sorts of books. And that was one of Crowley's sort of mentors and influencers. Transcendental Magic, The Science of Spirits, The Great Secret, or Occultism Unveiled. He had an influence on Crowley around the early 1800s, and that came into the Golden Dawn. So Levi was considered one of the parents, if you will, of 20th century magic.
Oh, really?
So this is in the early 1800s. In around 1860, there's a great Christian revival, the Ulster Revival. And in a short amount of time, there was 100,000 converts. So
really?
I'm thinking of myself as Crowley at this point in his young life, thinking of quite the opposite of what the Ulster Revival would have meant to the world, and that of course spread to the rest of the world in time, fundamentalism, everything like that. 1850s, 1900s, there's something called the Third Great Awakening. And this basically was religious activism in America and then in Britain. And some of the names, you'd know the names, William and Catherine Booth in the United States. This all led to prohibition and you name it. Okay, this is some of the stuff Crowley would have been aware of. I do not have direct evidence to say he hated it, loved it, used it. But it was going on in his world. Spiritualism, we were talking about this early, from the 1800s, mid 1800s. People offering people solace in their grief, trying to say that we survive physical death. So I've been fascinated with spiritualists my whole life. And there's a temple not too far from me, which I haven't had time to go to more than once. Most of them are quite lovely, and they're quite passionate and dedicated. And they have something called principles. They have an original, I think it was 9 principles that they go by. And I want to read one verbatim, because this will tell you what they said. Communication, guidance, and continuous existence of the soul and its personality.
Yeah,
that's part of the original principle.
Yeah. And they live it.
They live it. I mean, I'm sure you've both been around, and I've been around spiritualists, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Lilydale used to be a place where I used to like to go just to decompress, I guess, and be around people of like mind. It has a whole other feel to it than any place I've ever been. But then again, it's said to be the largest spiritual community in the world. People come from all over the world to come here, and I have dear friends that live there. I have dear friends whose families grew up as part of this whole movement in the States. And they're just to know them like as adults, and this is, how they grew up. They're just lovely people. They really are. Well,
I'm hoping like heck to get there in person, because it's not far, obviously.
It's really not. It's an hour from the border here.
Yeah.
And so I contribute to Lilydale. I've taken some of their online workshops.
Yeah.
And I remember the last one was about a year ago. And I said to my partner, I could feel the energy coming from the monitor.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Their vibe is fabulous.
Well, it is. I mean, you think about it. Abraham Lincoln would go. His wife would go. They would do seances. They were, they were actively involved in this location. A friend of mine actually runs a museum out there. When you go through this museum, you see the history. The Fox sisters, everything else. Like all of it is there, and they own, I think, like 300 acres. It's fabulous. It really is. It's just an amazing place. You feel it as soon as you just drive up to it. And when you walk through it, it's all encompassing. It's just really one heck of an experience. Yeah, I take a friend and he's like, I don't feel anything. What's wrong with you? What do you mean? I don't know. I'm broken. Maybe.
That would not be me. Yeah. So if I go, I will let you know. Gosh, we could do a whole show on spiritualism and how that works and the effect it has on people. And at times of great crises, like when the Twin Towers went down, there were people that did soul and spirit retrievals on the spot helping them.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I went to the memorial and Michelle said, what did it feel like? I said, it felt like many ascended. It didn't feel like there was stuck energy. I said it had to be worked on.
Yeah.
There wasn't that much there. You had a lot of residual.
Right. I could see it. This was something around the world that any remote viewer, I think, would, if they had the capability during the time of all of this happening, that they would have been lending their abilities to move these people on.
Yeah.
So many similar skills towards the same ends.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's partly what tonight's about too, I think. So let's get back to spiritualism if we want. So Crowley, I can't believe he was not influenced by that movement. Then in 1890-ish, 1900, Dion Fortune was born.
Okay.
And so she founded the Fraternity of the Inner Light. We might know her as a divination person, fortune teller, but she was a ceremonial magician as well. And she influenced the Golden Dawn.
Really? Okay.
So I'm just saying all this like backdrop to what was going on in the world when Crowley was going on in the world.
Right.
When Crowley was going, I love that.
So, and I have a lot of Crowley specific dates, which I can get to as well if you like.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you like. I find that obviously he inspired a lot of people. And again, I say misunderstood because there are a lot of people. I know his place in Italy, which is in like shambles, essentially. It's just ruins. People go in and find just a lot of, sacrificial things there. And, they break into the place and the energy is just like through the roof. So to clarify, his type of magic and rituals, were they sacrificial?
Some of it was. I hate to say it, and I really do hate to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really deeply
sign of the
disturbs
times.
me, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He'd fit in well with the Italians in those times back there during the war. Holy cow.
Mussolini was scared of him.
I believe it because at the time they were such a superstitious culture, not so much now. But back then Italy was ruled and run by church, so regardless of politicians. So I could see that, feeding them very easily.
I think actually.
Pardon?
I think they ran him out of Italy.
They ran him out of Italy.
Yeah,
who, Aleister Crowley?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
when he became too outrageous due to his carnal practices that were in direct opposition to society. In brief.
Right.
So they tossed him out.
They tossed Madonna out too, but and Sinead O'Connor, who happened to be Roman Catholic, they got rid of her too.
Oh my gosh.
But,
my gosh. Well, don't forget the war too, right? The energy being released in the world was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if Crowley was like today's magicians, he was working with energy.
That's what I was referring to. If he was there, I mean, my dad was born in 1930 and he grew up in the war. My uncle was taken by the Nazis for 3 months and held captive. There is a lot it's not just the ancient, you know, history of all those European countries, but there's a lot of energy in those countries.
Yes.
There is a lot of tragedy in Europe and Welsh. So,
well, war will feed negative energy. Let's face it. That's food.
Forever.
Anybody could have used that. Anybody could have utilized it and redirected
especially if they knew what they were doing, right, with energy.
Yes, for sure.
And
so
he did.
That was some of Crowley's influences too. Did I interrupt you, Michelle?
I'm listening. I'm nodding, going, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just
around after Crowley's death, an anthropologist, Sir Edward Burnett Taylor, came out with some, just to make an aside comment on this whole business, right? Came out with a book saying that magic was pseudoscience for savages.
Oh, take that back.
1870s. 1870s or so. And then, then we saw after that, the Order of the Golden Dawn. After that, a few years later, Crowley went into the desert, which is a whole magical process. They call it, and he might have called it this, a grand or a great magical retirement. A retirement does not imply you're retiring. It implies you're getting away from the world to focus. You need to get to isolation. So the isolation was him and one other guy, Alan Bennett, I think, who went to the desert near Cairo. And that's where he received the Book of the Law. To do it in a more civilized place, or a place with a lot of people, or a place with a lot of distractions, wasn't going to happen. So they sometimes call it a GMR, a great magical or a grand magical retirement. You can do it for anything as little as a weekend at the cottage, 2 months on end if you wish.
Wow.
Can I ask a crazy off question?
No.
Because it's been, I don't know why I ask.
I hope so.
Exactly. Just jump in.
It's what we do here. Because as you're talking, all I can think right after you said Mussolini, did he ever have any connections with the monarchy in England?
So there was rumor and some true stuff that he was a loose chain, perhaps to the monarchy, definitely to intelligence, British intelligence.
It's like
that
MI6.
Was proven. That kind of thing.
I had a feeling when you have that kind of ability, you will be sought out by the government, right?
He claimed he worked as a spy in World War II.
And so there's the guy from the Gong Show, but do we believe that?
I don't know. Some others trashed it, and some others said absolutely.
I think he had enough followers that they would want to cater to those followers. That they
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree.
I think if you're really well known and you have a lot of people following and you want to get information and you want to put information out there, then you do it with a mass following of people. Otherwise, what's the point?
Crowley would have been like a Kardashian on Twitter right now. Seriously, he would have been more followed. I'm trying to pop culture reference for people who don't understand or who are younger and don't get it. He would be more popular than them on Twitter, and they have some serious followers. Like he would have that kind of
influence.
Yes. One brain. Thank God she finishes my sentences. But yeah, seriously.
Massive knowledge of several different systems of magic and study and spirituality and philosophy.
But extraterrestrial connection as well. I mean, and you have, you've got like Milab, right? Who still is interested in people who have extraterrestrial connections and are gifted. So I don't think that would have been any different back then.
Do you think we have anyone like him in present day?
You had somebody like him in the 60s, Anton LaVey.
Of course.
Okay, yeah.
Present day, I don't know. Maybe some of the modern day let's call them more right-hand path rather than left-hand path philosophers, some of the people that are on television and so forth, preaching good wisdom in some cases, possibly them. They're very charismatic.
Evangelists?
Not only philosophers, psychologists, psychiatrists as well.
Yeah. I think Anton got a little too commercial. That was the problem. He got involved with too many celebrities, and then I don't think he was taken as seriously, because then you become a movement. You know, I think you become a movement. You know, posing with all the celebrities, this and that. I think what it does a little bit, not to the followers, but I think if you're trying to be taken seriously, and you see this imagery, you're just like, oh, it's just like another cult. Like, I really think that may have hindered people taking him seriously with his beliefs.
He was, if I'm not mistaken, an ex-cop. He was a circus carny and a whole bunch of other things. And the Satanic Bible is not his only work.
No,
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Complete Witch, which is really a hoot. It's got tons of knowledge in it, actually, that would be of value today.
Right. Oh no, yeah, he wrote a few things. But you know what interests me is, before he died, there was a video going around. You could probably find it. It was on YouTube, and he was genuinely terrified to die. He acknowledged God, and a lot of his followers went, "What?" I'd be reading comments. I'm like, it was him on this video. And people would some people felt betrayed. Some people started questioning everything.
Well, they must have, been like,
that fear of, this is what I was preaching. This is what I've seen. Now I'm afraid, because he knew he was dying, you know.
Maybe it's because he saw what was coming.
Maybe.
It's possible. He was at a delicate stage as a magus. Who uttered the word indulgence, basically, as we know it.
Well, it's all about indulgence and self-gratification and self-love.
Kind of like Hollywood.
Well, Crowley, interestingly enough, was, I think, his last words, and I might be misquoting, so I'm going to slap myself if I am. I am perplexed.
And why do you think he would have said that? What do you think made him feel that way?
My understanding, not so much of his magic, but of the fifth degree state of being, let's say, the maga or the magus, the magi, they are somewhat responsible for their worlds.
Okay.
They self-create a world which they occupy, and they're somewhat dependent on others understanding the parts of their world they're able to communicate.
Right.
And so, in addition to being a fantastic burden, it could be destabilizing.
Right.
Because you go through the world trying to make sure to your last day that you are speaking about your word. And then if it unhinges you, which it has that kind of power, you're in a very delicate space. You have 1 foot here on the planet and 1 foot somewhere else at that stage. So if maybe age for Anton got the best of him and destabilized him. I do not know the answer to that.
It was, you know, it did leave a lot of people feeling like, what did we just see? You know, what did we just see? It's always fascinating, because as practitioners, you are made privy to a lot of information. You are dealing with beings that will come forward, who give you all kinds of knowledge. Some of them, you know, you take that step back and like, geez, I hope that's not waiting for me, you know. But you learn how to do it. You learn how to do it properly. Like I have a Luciferian friend who's like really up the ladder, and there are ways that you do things, and you know, people who come in thinking that you can easily control. There's certain things that you will never control, and it's a big mistake to think that you can go in and control the world of magic and the occult. I mean, it's so deep, like you said, it's got tentacles that just go up for miles. There's just so much information, and it makes you wonder. Even like, again, I can use Anton as an example, but you know, I think maybe you come to that realization as you come to the end of the road, or pretty close to it. It's like, what's next? And you know, from what I understand, he was sick in the end as well. So it's you know, is it the mindset of like, you know, I can't fight this. I don't have the knowledge. I don't, you know, like, I don't know. I can't even imagine. I just watched this guy and I thought to myself, what happened to you? What happened to you with this?
Well, gosh, and we're under so many different pressures today as well. That and what you just said is so true. Folks can be coming into any branch of magic you want to name, and say I'm immediately a high priest. I'm immediately magi or something like that. You might as well sign your own death warrant. It's dangerous.
Right.
I feel like that with the paranormal world, where people come in and they start doing readings, and all of a sudden they're this master psychic. There's like 6 names in front of them, and I'm like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Do you realize what that energy going out does to you?
Well, I think both of you, took a balanced checks and balances approach to your crafts. I did, and I still do checks and balances. If I thought I'm going to assume something that I am not today, and then I have no balance in place, and then it's likely to unhinge me. I don't have the substance to back it up.
Balance, boundaries. I mean, there's just something that goes without saying. You just don't talk about it ever.
No,
you know some crafts, like there's some things I would never talk about.
No, and there's things that you don't do unless it's for the greater good, which is something that stays in the back of my mind at all times. Am I doing good with this? Am I doing good for others? Am I helping someone with what I'm doing? I'll never do anything to better my life, but am I helping?
It's a karmic thing too. I think that's a
Absolutely.
big word
And
in this day and age.
And I have fear, which I think is healthy.
Oh, me too. It keeps us honest, keeps us balanced.
I have no fear. I don't.
Wow.
And that's my biggest,
That's her downfall.
Yeah. Probably.
She doesn't have any.
No, I don't.
Downfalls.
I always say I'm either fearless or I'm just a meathead about it. Like
you're likely fearless, and you can certainly get to that position, and for a lot of good reasons. Some people believe and we've talked about this is just a hologram.
Let's talk about that, right? That whole
go way off Crowley,
I know. That's a whole other show, Wes.
I'm gonna start writing them down because
that's
Wes
a
can
whole
make it
other
once
show.
a month.
I see it coming. I see it. Yeah.
I got to be the luckiest person if I'm part of that show.
Oh yeah, no,
my
absolutely.
gosh, we love you.
Yeah, there's a whole other thing with that, and a big interest in it. I think people, you have this big awakening going on. People are more aware. I just read something today that 3 2022 Nobel Prize Peace winners, astrophysicists, just literally proved, if this is possible, prove that the universe is not real.
I don't see why they couldn't. They're all still behind the Big Bang theories. Those astrophysicists are behind a lot of stuff.
Right. I'm pretty sure I feel real. But where am I? That's the thing.
I think I know what they're going at. The whole energy concept.
The articles, the articles are up there. They're quite fascinating. So getting back to let's try to get back on track then with Crowley. Where do you want to go with that next?
So let's talk a bit about the Lema, and some of the messages in there I think would be valuable. He thought Awas, this entity, was his holy guardian angel, HGH.
Really?
And it gets further, and this is something I've adopted today, which probably came from him ultimately, the concept of the higher self. And then we take that one step further, which is my practice, which is that self ahead of the self. That self slightly ahead in time and place of me, who is feeding me information, not plain as something typed on a page, but feeding my intuition information, so I will act accordingly. So this is all that came from, I think, his holy guardian angel. Some people still refer to theirs. I just refer to my high self or higher self. Big piece of the puzzle for me to know that something has perspective. And of course it does. Many things have perspective I lack. Right.
No, it's true. I think there's a lot of pieces or looking at your higher self, but there's also, they'll tell you maybe you need to learn shadow work of yourself, understand your shadow. And if you do, doing shadow work and getting that balance, and that's what a lot of people need to learn to do. I've done that, very minutely, just because it never interested me enough. I just find a lot of ways around it. I like the shortcuts, but so I just, but because it's really detailed. I have friends who really know it well, and they'll start talking about it. I'm like, but why don't you just do this? Well, because it defeats the purpose. Yeah, but this is faster.
Yeah, we're all in a time crunch what we do, so it's a bit different.
Yeah.
I think it's just the work. Yeah.
As we're able to develop, if we're intelligent people, we'll go with it. As we're able to do it, it will be introduced to us, or it was there, and we'll become aware of it. Right.
Right. Exactly. When did this being come into his life? Because I understand he changed like quite a bit when he started communicating with this entity.
1904, 1903.
Oh wow! So that late on, eh? Wow.
How did he communicate with it?
He probably did. He was always doing ceremonial magic.
Ceremonial. Okay.
Right.
So that's how.
Ceremonial.
Mm-hmm.
That led him to this, I believe. So Crowley he has like several important axioms, and I've got those jotted down here on another screen. But basically, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law.
Right.
And so that again is us following our destiny and creating and following our destiny. Not saying to some other entity, do it for me necessarily.
Right.
Saying I'm responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take the hit for the bad news and take the credit for the good news.
Right.
Instead of assigning it to something else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then another one is every man and every woman is a star.
Like literally?
They're a star in the sense that he felt we all have a divine or spiritual core.
Okay.
Okay.
Essence, basically.
Yeah,
Just
essence.
another word for essence. Yeah.
Right. And that our job is to make ourselves fully divine. Right. And he even talked about move fully towards self-evolution.
Right.
Okay. And Crowley thought the great work was to do the will of one's own true will. And so if we're all a star here tonight, and we are, we're not necessarily going to merge, but we're going to bump into our orbits, and something will be shared when we do that. So you and I and everybody viewing right now can be their own star, and they can have a complementary atmosphere they might run into. And then them still being their own personal selves are going to be in a concert together with a bunch of individuals.
Right. Right.
Every man and every woman is a star.
I like that. And he was called the most evil man in the world.
Yes, by others.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
by others. But he quite liked it. His mother called him the Great Beast when he was a teenager.
Oh.
And early on. And so Crowley,
that's just a mother. Yeah. That's just a mother, she's
term
just
endearment.
Not a term of endearment, but saying like you little beast. I think it's just a word of the times. Like he was naughty, he was whatever. And that's why
he went on to become involved in so much debauchery, as we might call it. I don't necessarily call it that, but so many drugs, so many sex acts, so many ceremonial magic, so many forbidden topics.
Sex magic was huge in that time too, though, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's shocking. Oh my gosh.
Really? Oh, it was huge.
No, that way back. Was it a kind of religious, not necessarily evil or good, but in the sense of the word? Yeah. Wow.
So here's the bad rap that black magic gets. If it's not legit, not genuine, if people aren't pure of heart, if people aren't involved in harming anyone else or animals, you don't hear about those black magicians.
Right. That's true.
You hear about the ones that do all this heinous stuff, which I can tell you personally, black magicians do not do.
Right. Right.
But certainly he was involved in some really weird stuff. And, the 60s counterculture, which we've talked about, Wiccans would say he was, and I have a quote from somebody that helped develop Wicca as it exists today that credited him with some of it.
Right.
And so after he died, all this came to be. So another one of Crowley's big ones was he practiced ceremonial magic. So that he called ritual magic, high magic, learned magic.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was to say, what kind of magic do? I'd say, yeah, it's black magic, but it's definitely some of it's ceremonial. If you want to put another label on it, what we call operative magic, that's done toward a purpose. Ceremonial magic might be paying homage to a god or a goddess or a date. Operative magic is, I want to get something done.
Right.
That makes sense.
So he developed ceremonial magic, which we still do today. He helped get stage magic out of his head and talk about ceremonial magic and talk about creating a sacred, esoteric culture.
And that's huge now. That's why I say he would have this would have been, I think, his time. Because esoteric stuff, I mean, again, that's something that was very, it almost had to be like a secret society, I guess, back in the day, to get into that. Because this was really deep stuff. It's not stuff that you just openly spoke about.
It's not. No, you didn't just openly speak about those things. And now we can with relative impunity. And why not?
Yeah, of course.
Why not? We live in what some black magicians call the world of horrors.
Right. Right. No, exactly.
And others would say, besides this just being holographic, we're dreamers.
Right.
We're doing us.
Yes.
So why do needles hurt?
Oh gosh, you're asking the wrong guy. I have needle phobia.
I don't have a needle phobia. Actually, my mother-in-law on Monday called me a vampire because I said I love nothing more than to see the blood drain out of the needle when they're taking my blood. I just get right into it. I said it's got to be something to do with some life I have, but I actually enjoy that. So
I'm a number one wimp. I ended up in Emerge about a month ago, first time since I was a kid.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Boy, did I get needles. Boy, did I get some needles. And they put an IV in me. And when I told the nurse just before she put the IV in me, I said, I really have a problem with needles. It's like, bang!
Oh, that's it right there.
They're trained for that.
I know.
Sometimes it's better to show up at sick kids, but mind you, with the waiting period right now, it's probably a bad idea. But because they're a little more gentle.
Just say baby.
My arm was scarred for
baby needles. You ask for an IV needle when there's something for you. Just ask for an IV needle because I have small veins, and that's what they have to use with me.
Oh,
it's a smaller needle.
Well, I got this thing, and then they put me on what is it? Not water. It's something to hydrate me.
Saline.
I didn't feel dehydrated, and then they put me through I also had to get a CAT scan first in my life.
Oh.
And of course, this thing's hanging on your arm, and the operator says, "Oh, I'm going to put some dye in you, and you're going to feel weird."
Great, thanks. I'm already weird, man. You can't make me weirder.
What would Aleister say about these X-rays? What would Aleister Crowley think of X-rays and all of this?
I don't know what we say about any of this stuff. I mean, this machine I was in is like 25 million. No kidding, right? Really expensive machines. And just before I got in, I went over to reach for my arm, and I knocked the darn thing out of my arm. It was like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Lovely.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Sorry.
Anyway, yes, my needle experiences.
Yeah.
So I want to bring us back and ask you if you can see this.
We can. Yeah.
Yep.
This is one of the tarot cards from the Book of Thoth, and it's called the Tower.
Wow. That's
and
very
if
unusual.
you look towards the top, besides the eye of Horus, or it could be another eye if you want to call it that, there are little geometric things falling. Those are people that have lost their shape.
Oh.
They've lost their reason for being.
Wow.
Crowley had this card drawn to indicate the end of an eon, of a magical eon, and the beginning of his.
So that's the way he envisioned it.
Yes, the age of Horus, another eon.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not at all.
I love it.
Because people don't know I do a show. Right.
So I want to talk about the tower because it's just ripe with symbolism, and the tower basically means the end of an era for you.
Oh, okay.
If we look at it today, it means the destruction at your hands, probably, of what worked for you before.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a magical system, your philosophy, your value system. You are the tower, and the tower is self-destructing. And it's going to lead to a new paradigm for you.
Very cool.
So the tower is such a great card because it signifies change.
It does. Yeah. I just love the imagery.
Oh, the imagery of these cards is pretty fabulous. People often think that the Hanged Man means something. The Fool has got to mean this. The Fool is us in most tarot decks. It's us.
Right.
We're the babe in the abyss.
Right.
You know, we're the Fool. Death just means something new, rebirth, generally speaking.
Just like dreams.
Just like dreams.
Right.
And
depending
all the
on
cards
where the card falls, depending on where it falls, depending on where the death card falls.
Upside down,
it
has the opposite meaning.
Right.
I don't read tarot, so I'm finding this very, very interesting. I've only used them a couple times, but it was too damn accurate, and I got scared. It was a long time ago.
This is my grandmother reading tea leaves, who told me to stay away from the occult.
No, it just the accuracy of the reading scared me. I'll tell you about that on another time. I do use oracle cards for people who really want them. I don't do readings, but when my family or friends ask me and they want them, I don't mind doing that. Tarot, I'm fascinated by all of it. They have the most beautiful cards.
Most amazing images. This one's called the Tower. It's Atu, or it's major card number 16. The number means something in numerology. You're just going to reduce the number. You're going to add up the 3 numbers, right? So the 16 is going to be a 7. So we sort of go from there. So it's built up on number, power, what's looking in on you, the fact that in this card you've lost your figure, you've lost your shape, you've lost your humanity as you know it. And you're going to go through a major change. So again, I don't really do readings. I spent months and months going through this deck and every page of the book, trying to understand the multi-layers of symbolism and just appreciate
is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I think, symbolism is fascinating, but and to think that, these things are designed by someone. And I look at something like this, it's very abstract. So it just makes me wonder, like, abstract in his thinking to bring this to life. So you have all this abstract symbolism. It makes you wonder again, like, what was going on in here at the time to bring this forward like that.
Did it have anything to do with ET? Because I was watching this clip today of this anthropologist who studies symbolism in ancient civilizations and went to over 60 different countries or 600 countries, maybe it was more, and said that when she compared the symbols, that 32 of them were identical in all of these countries, and there's no possible way
it could be
back there. So like, it makes you wonder about how much influence.
Did you notice that in your research? Did you come across any of that?
Common symbolism across different magical systems for sure, across these cards for sure. I mean, I like this. I know it's a tiny image, sorry, but this is the magician.
I can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
As above, so below.
One of my favorite sayings.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Crowley was channeling in a way. I don't mean he was going unconscious when he was doing this. You don't have to be unconscious to channel. No. But that's what he was probably doing when he received these and communicated them to Lady Frida, and she was able to execute them, to draw them.
Right.
And so this is the Book of Thoth, is, what came about as a result of this. And I don't know how many other tarot decks were influenced by it, but I just studied the symbolism. And there's so many layouts, and Crowley recommends layouts. They're in the book. Layouts that look like a 6-pointed star, layouts that have 4 cards there and 4 cards there, and all sorts of different layouts. So one card precedes another, one card follows another. One card is influenced by the past. The next one's going to influence the future, that kind of thing.
Right. He definitely was ahead of his time, without a doubt. And I mean, I just look at the abstract and I'm just thinking, that's like total Picasso stuff. But I mean, just to think, like, again, it comes out of your head, and he has to relay that to somebody else to be able to put that down and perfect it. That's not easy to do in that sort of a format.
And it gets a lot harder, Michelle, if you think that he had to have at times groups of peers that agreed with him.
That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And so in most modern magical systems, we work with groups of peers that have gone there before and can recognize when we're undergoing a change.
Right.
And if they have the audacity or honesty to admit to it, then suddenly somebody is a different degree or has a different title. So Crowley's peers, some of them argued like hell with him and said, you stole my work. No, you stole my work. And, these big battles going on. But others said, yeah, we agree with you. You've done something special. So we're going to take this as a new religion. And, you're going to be installed. And then you can install and train others in this new religion.
Right. And a lot of this came in after his, I guess, connection with this entity. I think he really elevated after that, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He founded a school, the abbey you were talking about of Thelema in Sicily, the one in Boleskine and so forth. Yeah, traveled around the world and occasionally took in people, and they'd all do this stuff together, this debauchery and magic together. Right. And actually became a pauper. He became so broke later. Right. So broke that he had to rely on donations to the AA.
Which is weird because he came from a lot of money.
He came from a ton of money. He got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he squandered it or spent it all. And he was just a pauper. It reminds me of Lovecraft, who was never recognized in his
life. No, it's true. Yeah. It's true. It's true. We're going to take a quick pause and do a station and network ID. Here we go.
We are. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live on 105.3 FM radio from the gorgeous city of New Orleans. Tonight, our guest is Wes Roberts, and we are discussing everything Aleister Wells. Perfect for October, don't you think? A shout out and a thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring our show from day one. Thank you for your support and your continuing sponsorship. A huge thank you for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, as well as a very happy birthday from all of us here at the Outer Realm. Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. There you can not only follow him, but you can listen to his clips. He's dropped a new album for Halloween, and it's just perfect. Stream or listen to our archives in the platform you normally use. Please remember to subscribe and like us too. We have a huge audience, but it doesn't reflect on social media. So let's get that moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like us, subscribe to us, dang it.
Yeah. It doesn't cost anything. It's free.
If you like what you hear, do it. Yes. Show some support. Okay, so we are back with Wes Roberts and everything Aleister Crowley. So
did I say Wells?
You sure did.
Oh, for the love of God, I'm so sorry. Aleister Crowley. Why did I say Wells? He's an actor, isn't he?
H.G. Wells, you're probably thinking.
Yeah, it's like, what?
I am like, seriously, somebody should have cut me off right there. Aleister Crowley. I realized after we said it. I'm here. That's all that matters.
You're right.
You know what? I do it all the time. I always change the last name to Wells, but Wells, I believe, wasn't that the actor that played Scrooge?
Are you thinking of Orson?
No, before him.
I absolutely.
No, before him. Long before him. I don't know what the hell. I am so sorry, but yes,
that's okay for me. We've said Crowley like 75 times already.
Yeah, I know, but it matters in the
up on the screen. We're okay,
and it's on the screen, but I can't see the screen because I put on my screen for reading. But yeah, my apologies, Aleister Crowley, for the love of God.
Aleister Crowley, Edward Crowley.
Yes. Not so much for the love of God.
Not him, but no, not him.
Not to Mr.
I have
Crowley.
to find out who the heck Wells is. That is driving me crazy.
Okay, we are back. Now, you sent a recording. Do you want me to play this recording? And do you want to talk about the recording? Or
Yeah, I was gonna, and I don't have it loaded.
I have it.
Hopefully people can understand it. No, I mean, I don't have the text up in front of
Oh,
me.
I see. Okay. Okay.
But it's a clip of Crowley reciting the first of 40 Enochian calls or
Okay.
Enochian keys, and actually it leads into something that's up on my screen. So I hope people can hear it.
Oh, they can. It's going to come right through the whole
Okay.
soundboard. So here we go.
I reign above ye, saith the gods of justice, in power exalted above the firmament of the earth, in whose hands the sun is as a sword and the moon as a smooth thrusting fire, who measures your garments in the midst of my vesture, who tufts you together in the palms of my hand, whose suits I garnish with the fire of gathering, and beautified your garments with admiration, to whom I made a law to govern the holy ones, and delivered ye a rod with the ark of knowledge. Moreover, you lifted up your voices and sware obedience and faith to him that liveth and triumpheth, whose beginning is not, nor end cannot be. It shineth as a flame in the midst of your palaces, and reigneth amongst you as the balance of righteousness. Move therefore and show yourselves, open the mysteries of your creation. Be friendly unto me, for I am the servant of the same your God, true worshipper of the highest.
Thank you for playing that. It's one of the 40 calls or keys, the first one.
Right. Right.
And people can make of it what they will and interpret it. But that was basically saying, I'm making a bold statement that I'm trying to contact you, and I am the same as you.
Right.
I who am the highest of life.
Right. Right. He is pretty, I listen to him and it draws me in. Like he's very, I guess, animated when he speaks. Like he's just very, it's just the tones. It's everything. And I'm listening to it. I'm just like, yeah, I would have been a follower.
Somebody gave me a tape of 30 minutes or so of him years ago, and
right.
I had to go berserk getting this thing converted to a digital file.
Oh, really? I'm surprised you can't find it. I mean, everything is online now. It would probably be
probably. I just thought, I know I have this on a cassette.
Right. Right.
So I'm going to find it. But the interesting thing is what he's talking about. And I've got some notes to take this further if you want.
Of course. Yeah.
He worked with the ethers, part of Enochian magic.
Okay.
Enochian magic system that he created or co-created or co-opted. He worked with 30 ethers, and he created a book called The Vision and the Voice. And I couldn't find my copy of it. I would have held it up here, but any one of us can adopt this book and work with the parts or the ethers. And there's one in particular, the 19th part. Probably you two and a lot of your viewers, and it certainly happened to me, you are going to probably see some of the same things that all magicians see when they invoke it. It is the most fantastic thing. I thought, oh yeah, right, because I'm different, and they're different, and they have a different lens they look at the world with. Right. But I read descriptions of what Crowley saw, his visions. Right. And I did this, and you're supposed to do the 30 parts over 1 month, one every night. 1 month. And I know a handful of people that have done this, including myself. And you get to this particular one, and I had visions of geometric shapes.
Wow.
And just about everyone does.
Right.
Holy cow.
So
this is called The Vision and the Voice, if anybody's interested in that book, The Vision and the Voice.
The Vision and the Voice. Again, I have to ask, pre or post entity connection?
This is post entity by how much? By about 5 years.
See, it's that evolutionary thing again. Like he just seems to, I think he tapped into something. He ended up with this being, and I think you said it right. Downloads.
Yeah, I think it was a download. I think that he received it and couldn't unpack it, to use the term, immediately. He wrote it all down at the time, but that reminds me of writing my experience of the 1980s down at the time,
Right.
and taking a lifetime to unpack it.
Right. Well, because if you think about it, and being an experiencer yourself, because that was your first show with us, I think they gravitate towards people who are in positions to get that information outward to the masses. And I always said there were some things that he was just onto something.
I think he was, and it's you said his voice resonated with you.
It does, yeah, it does.
It does the same thing. It's canter.
Yeah, it doesn't with me.
No way.
What does it do to you? Like
he sounds like the Wizard of Oz to me.
It's like an old 50s or 30s movie, doesn't it?
His voice reminds me of the Wizard of Oz when he's behind the curtain. I've seen that film enough freaking times because my daughter, 25 years, I think we've gone through, I don't know how many DVDs, but that voice, and when he talks to Dorothy, he's got the same vernacular, the same tone.
But see, that's what I was trying to say. You know what it sounds like for me? And I am please don't shoot the messenger. I don't mean any disrespect, and I'm not looking to compare. Right now we're talking apples to oranges. Martin Luther King, I Had a Dream.
Oh, interesting. I know why you're saying that.
The tone.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King sat and did that speech, and he
You're gonna get a lot of email
with his voice, and that's what that sounded to me a little bit like. Rah, 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 rah.
I felt absolutely nothing.
Addressing, the drawing in, and that's not. Again, we're comparing apples to oranges, so there's no disrespect intended there. I had a great deal of respect for Martin Luther King. I'm just talking about the tone and the ability to draw in the subjects.
Well, he'd need to be able to do that for what he was trying to accomplish. But I absolutely felt nothing. It was just mumbled to me. It was like nothing. I couldn't understand him. Nothing. I don't know.
I wonder, Amelia, if you had have heard it in Enochian, because that's the first part. This is the English translation. It's still him, but he said it in Enochian first.
Yeah, no, I've never.
Angelic language.
Yeah, I've never heard. He doesn't. His tone, it does nothing for me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, I've been on the receiving end of hearing Enochian, our version of Enochian, which nobody knows how to pronounce it really. But anyway, a woman who was pronouncing it in a magical situation made the hair stand on the back of my neck.
Very good. Cherry, oratory style is the word that we were looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, orator. His voice reminds me of the Holzer. He doesn't draw me in at all. I don't know. I would have to listen to him again, and I would have to do more research for.
You might get more from reading the text of it than from listening to it. It's interesting. We all respond in a different way. We all have different talents that way.
I usually learn by visual and orally better than I do reading. I don't retain as much, but I don't know. It was just weird. It was like something in me was like, nope, turn it off. You're not listening. Yeah, it was one of those things.
Well, the cards may work for you. They may speak to you.
Yeah.
If you're ever interested in getting the deck, that might speak to you, but I don't know. Interesting how we all differently respond to it. I like the Enochian. And once I saw the English, it's like, oh, okay. So that
doesn't sound the same, right? It doesn't have the same effect when you listen to it in English as you do when it's Enochian.
It's like Latin, same thing.
It's jolting.
Yeah.
The Enochian's really jolting when you listen to it.
It's just like listening to ancient Aramaic or Latin, but when they're Latin, not fun to learn, but
not Latin's easier to understand. You can pick up words from Latin speaking any of the languages.
Like ancient tongue. There's just something about the
Aramaic is different for me. Aramaic draws me in fiercely.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, I was speaking it in my sleep one night.
Yeah, it draws me in. Like I could sit through listening to that in the back.
Yeah. I'm just like, what did it sound like? I I don't have any idea. But yeah.
Yeah, that'd be me. I rarely talk in my sleep, but it happens once in a while.
Once in a while.
I'm totally unaware of it.
Yeah, apparently it's Aramaic for me.
Wow.
I know.
That's very cool.
Sure. I wish I knew what it was. But so as of course we're slowly nearing the top.
Right.
I know already. So where do we want to go next that we can come in and slowly close off with?
So I guess we can talk a little bit about how he died, and we can certainly talk about some other big dates, and that won't take long. And you can just cut me off when you want
let's do it. No worries.
Early 1920s, around 1923, he was kicked out of Italy. So he visited Tunisia, Paris, London. Okay. He had a new partner who he met or went to Berlin with, then London.
Right.
1930s, mid 1930s, he was bankrupt. Okay. And then he hooked up with, as you know, in 1944 or so, the lady Frida Harris to do the Thoth deck. Before that, he met and was influenced by Dennis Wheatley. So a writer of occult and thriller novels and things like that. And then he had all these societal influences, which I've mentioned, various famous magicians he took parts from, various ascensions he made in various orders he was involved in. And then it just all deteriorated. So he died on December 1, 1947. He had bronchitis. He had worsened bronchitis. And the funeral was called by the press of the day Black Mass.
Wow, really? Wow.
So I don't know if that helps sort of sum things up. There's all sorts of bits and bites of more information in there if you like. And we were going to go to downloads, but it doesn't look like tonight. Not fully.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got probably, 15 minutes. So if you want to touch on it a bit, you most certainly can. We do.
Oh, surely.
I say let's do it.
No one's coming up after us. We're good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we might agree. I think it's possible that Crowley's info came by a download. I think many magicians have downloads. I thought for the longest time, personally, it was a thing only for abductees and experiencers.
Right.
I know it sounds ignorant, right? And it is ignorance. And I'm a lifelong magician.
Right.
And I didn't put those two things together.
Right.
I thought downloads happen to experiencers and alien life forms or ultra terrestrials, whatever they are speaking to me. And then I sketch out some notes. And then it begins to bubble up to my consciousness.
Right.
And so I've asked myself a question on some of my notes saying, are we, like you and me and your viewers, are we doing magic? If we're doing it, where does the source come from?
That's a big
question. What are the sources?
Yeah.
And I think I'm informed by other me's. I've said this before, I believe. Other versions of me in the omniverse, in space and time.
Right.
They give me something I lack.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at dimensionally speaking, for example, you have bits and pieces of yourself in all these dimensions that come together and form the ultimate you, the ultimate us.
The ultimate us. And you know how we sometimes refer to it as that's my former life.
Right.
Those are my former lives, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
And they're not always from the former lives. They're often from now, current moment. And so how stable do we feel? Are we secure enough to open ourselves up to these other sources and say, yeah, I want you to keep sending me information. I'll process it as I'm able to process it. But you're exchanging, actually, because that other Michelle or Amelia, somewhere out there in space and time, is getting something from you they lack.
Right. Right. That's a good perspective.
And so consider it a download if you, at first, do not fully understand it, but it sort of puts you across the side of the head thinking, what is it about the numbers 1 to 4 or 1 to 5? Like this happened to me recently. What is it about those numbers?
Right.
And I just went berserk. night after night trying to fill in the blanks. What tarot card belongs to this number? What's the significance of this number? How does this number fit in terms of my movement? And then I attached a scenario to it, which was walking down a street. And as I walked down the street in the sunlight before I reached the end, I would go through the numbers 1 to 5, which were stages.
Right.
And I woke up one night and wrote 10 pages of notes. That's when I processed the download.
Right.
But that was months and months after I got it.
Oh my gosh. Why so long after?
It's probably me. It's probably my limitations. It's probably my bandwidth, my capability. But yeah, I just woke up one night and I was up for 2 hours, and every 10 minutes I sat up in bed and wrote another page of notes on this.
So it's just like a human thing. It couldn't process as fast as it came in. It's kind of like our computer, really.
Yeah, this end of the funnel is very narrow.
Yes.
Right.
The one that leads to consciousness.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
And the other one's like this.
Yeah. Which is also like the Holy Grail, but anyways.
Well, yeah, okay, that's a good one, because oh boy, we can go off on that one. We're in the Holy Grail. We're the substance of the Grail.
We need a whole Da Vinci Code show.
I love that. I love that.
It'll be fun.
So we have this array taking in information from all dimensions of space-time, including the spiritual realm, and it just goes through this puny little funnel as it reaches our consciousness. And often we put our bias and training and indoctrination in the way of it. We get in the way of the info.
That makes so much sense.
We have to let it flow.
Yeah. Our ego gets in the way a lot.
It does.
Yeah. That makes so much sense.
Well, they say like the human brain can't even comprehend or process things that come in from certain, like I always say, for example, when let's just talk ET for a moment, right? After I cough, sorry.
We're both coughing today.
I know. All of this information it just comes flooding in. Like, why can't you just let me remember it? Because we just can't comprehend it all. It's too much. So you just get little bits and pieces as you need them. I often will sit there and find myself researching, and all of a sudden I'm off on something entirely different that I didn't go looking for.
There's a whole
because I research for shows all the time, right?
It's a whole thing that goes with that, Michelle, that I think of when you talk about the downloads and everything. I always think you hear scientists say constantly that we don't use our entire brain. Sure. Well, who stops us from that? Why aren't we using it? Who's stopping us? How did that happen? Why are we not? It doesn't.
That's a whole Matrix show.
That's a whole Matrix. Okay. So that fits with the Matrix. I'm learning about that. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think we have the capability, but it's just, if the information is just so vast and it comes in so fast, we're not computers. We're not AI. We can't process it all.
Are we?
Now we're really into the Matrix stuff.
We do things sequentially.
I lighten crap up when I'm nervous. I'm just saying, you'll get to know that about me. I make a joke when I'm uncomfortable. Yeah.
That's interesting, though. The download. So it takes you all this time. How do you know when you're sitting up and writing things down that this is a download at the time? Or do you not? You just write it down and see where it goes.
Sometimes you do not. You just say that it's not always missing time, but sometimes it's kind of like that. It's like I was so hyper focused on something. I mean, this happened to me most recently a few days ago, and I'm thinking of the importance of the number 3. I work with threes a lot.
Well, Tesla,
and a lot of magicians work with threes. And
I was born in the 3rd month.
That's
and
right.
So I'm thinking of threes, and I'm thinking my head's really messed up because I've been going through some physical stuff. And what if either of you said, Wes, can you help me? Can you send healing my way? And I thought, how would I get it to you?
Right.
If this clouded head is in the way. And then I thought, well, go back to number 3s. Don't do it here. The mind is non-local anyway.
Right, that's true.
Consciousness is non-local. So go to that place, top of the pyramid, do the work there, and it will come down to Amelia or Michelle. But it will not come directly from here.
Right. Say I mean, I understand the concept, but I mean, I guess to somebody like a layman who's never heard about this, we're just gonna go, "What the hell are you talking about?" It's an easy. They're easy steps, but there's still steps nonetheless, and I think that's where people really struggle as well with just trying to it's like the shortcuts. I'm like, shit, just project it out there. Give me a picture. Okay, Wes, here it comes right at you.
Don't give all our secrets away.
No.
Yeah.
Well, most mediums are like that, right? So
you walk into another room to do it if you want to have a physical manifestation of it, or you make a sacred space physically. But that's what we have to do also spiritually. So I can't read those comments, by the way.
I'll read it for you. That what you said about make a sacred space, I think that's what everybody's missing when they try to do this, is that whole preparation.
Right.
Carrie, and thank you for that, Carrie, because we were struggling for that word.
It's been a hard day, Carrie.
It's been a tough week. Yeah. Open too much too quickly, you'd be overwhelmed like a villain at the end of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls. Yeah. It said that's why we have guardian gatekeepers, angels, ETs, to keep us from what we're not ready for. Very 100%. Well said. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that.
On a job, Carrie.
Carrie, we're looking for someone to. We're looking for a director and maybe a new producer because Joe's like MIA half the time.
We need somebody in chat just to think for us.
Nights. Yeah. Tamara, you're slacking.
It's true.
I'm kidding. I love you, Tamara.
But I do. I think it's a really good statement that there are a lot of these beings out there who are constantly feeding us information.
Yep.
And we're just failing to recognize it, maybe. It's like when you say, write down your dreams. Maybe it's not a dream. Maybe that is a vision. Maybe it's a message. Oh, I don't know.
Well, that's a great way, actually, you just remind me of something I missed, and it's a good one. Crowley was a leading edge person in terms of having magical diaries and journals.
Really?
And he wrote a book around it. Yes.
He did?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He wrote a book about that. So he was preachy about that and the value of a magical journal or a magical diary.
Right.
A lot of my friends do that. I'm not very good at it, but a lot of my friends do it. Dream journals, I'm a lot better at.
Right.
Dream journals is a big deal for me. I believe there's a message even a year later. There's a message in it. You get bits and pieces over. I did it with my sister-in-law when my brother passed away. I said to her, she goes, I don't even know if he's coming in my dreams. I get these bits and pieces. I said, just write it out. Keep the book by your nightstand. Don't get up. Take the book to you and write before you forget. And at the end, before the first anniversary, there was a message. There was a story.
That's wonderful.
So it's precious, and I think people undervalue it because it's so little.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
I believe that dreams are exactly that. Those messages and everything. Maybe it's just we're just traveling and having experiences.
Maybe we're processing. Yeah.
I think that we are right now.
Yeah. Right.
And it's going to come back to us.
Another show, Wes.
OBEs.
Matrix. Going back to the Matrix thing.
So we'll have to do the Matrix and out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
Not to mention lucid dreaming. Just saying.
Oh, that's something both of us can do.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I'm not good at it.
Oh, no? I'm a little too good at it.
Wow.
I'm a little too good at it. I like to stop. I stop myself before I even put my head down. I'm like, you're not dreaming about this or that. We're going to bed. You're not putting that in my head. Pardon?
You have
to share something down the road. I'd love to hear it personally.
Sure. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Lucid dreaming, I think I don't do it anymore. I used to do it all the time. I could fast forward my dreams, pick up wherever I left off. I could, if I didn't want to dream about it, I just said, like Amelia says, don't think about it. But if I wanted, like the flip side, if I wanted to dream about something specific and go back to a certain place, I could do all that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I'll go to bed and I'll say, I need to talk to you, Mike, and I need it to be clear. And that's my brother.
Yeah.
And I get that in the dream. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've always had it, though. I didn't know what it was. I just always had it. And I have tons of recurring dreams because of it. And I call them unfinished stories.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because they continue. They don't, it's not the same story. It's the same story with an added bit. And then the next time, the same story with another added bit.
You keep adding to
So
it. Yeah.
yeah,
That's fascinating
Well,
stuff.
I'm going
it
to
is.
take this
It's
to
fun.
heart. One of my sisters passed a year ago, the last one,
Oh,
and
I remember that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
no, it's okay. And I know that she reaches me, but then I found myself after a while automatically thinking like she might think,
Mm,
and that really a little rewiring going on. I think literally.
right. Right. Oh, you never know. You never know. We're in a total crazy world right now. And
My
again,
gosh. Yeah.
it's another show. But it can be, manifesting your own reality and things of
Maybe
that
there's another
nature.
title.
I know. Isn't it great? I love
Well, we're doing our own wills.
There
You
we
need
go.
your own show, Wes.
No, thanks.
Aw,
I could help with
No, I
you
got
do.
to come back to this one.
Oh
I can
yeah,
help with that.
absolutely.
You're always welcome on this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, thank you.
But we are at the top of the hour for this one. So
Yes.
unfortunately, we do have to sign off. And thank you so much. So before you go, tell everybody how they can find you, what you have coming up.
Okay, thank you. Website, wesgroberts.com.
It's right
And
there on
I've
the screen.
updated it recently to have shows I've done and upcoming shows like tonight's.
Excellent.
So go there and
Nice.
you'll find out about my 2 books, or you'll find out about shows, or if you really insist, you can get in touch with me. No, I
There we go.
want that.
Yeah, right on. I love it.
I love you, Wes.
Me too.
I love you guys too. This is
You're
always so much.
definitely
It's
one of our
such high
favorites.
energy for me. Thank you.
We
Thank
have
you.
we have great energy together. I have to agree. It's very beautiful. I think because we're all honest and
Yes.
for the greater good in that sense, and that's probably why it just fits.
Paying
I
it
love it.
Yes,
forward.
That's
always,
exactly
always.
what it's all about. So thank you, and I will be in touch.
Thank you.
both of you
Mwah.
for a great night.
Say hi to
All
Anna
right.
and tell her thank you for letting us have you.
That's right.
Oh, I will. You two
All
have a
right.
good night. What's left
You
of it.
too.
You
Good
as
night.
well.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, everyone, we've come to the end of another fantastic segment here in the Outer Realm. He is always so much fun to have on, 3 times and possibly
Absolutely.
counting. So big thank you to Wes Roberts for joining us this evening. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker. Please, whatever platform you were listening to this evening, like us, join us, subscribe to us, whatever the case may be. If you like what you see, please do show us some support. If you want to get a hold of us, here's the big one, the outer realm contact at gmail.com. Again, the outer realm contact at gmail.com. I think it's pretty much the only way you'll get an answer to any inquiries. It's just easier. Tomorrow night, we welcome back Scott McClellan of Diablo Manor, and he'll be picking up where he left off from the last show, and he's going to be discussing some of his paranormal experiences because it's spooky month, so of course we want to talk about that. So do tune in, and thank you for joining us. Chat room was just amazing this evening, so thank you all, and we will see you tomorrow night. Good night.